Welcome to the MamasteFit Podcast. On this episode, we have Victoria here to share her two birth stories. Her first one where she had an elective induction and experienced a postpartum hemorrhage, and then the second one where she had an unmedicated birth where she felt very confident and empowered. And she also shares a bit about her postpartum experience after her first baby, where she did experience some postpartum anxiety as well as some breastfeeding issues because her baby had a tongue tie.
Welcome to the MamasteFit Podcast. My name is Gina. I'm a perinatal fitness trainer and birth doula.
And I'm Roxanne, a certified nurse midwife.
And this is the MamasteFit Podcast, where we empower you on your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey.
Our podcast shares how to move throughout your pregnancy to stay strong and comfortable because pain is not a requirement of pregnancy. Understand the science of birth and approach recovery after birth.
We share our personal experience navigating motherhood and our professional expertise as birth workers and fitness professionals.
Our goal is to help you feel confident as you navigate the perinatal timeframe for an empowering pregnancy, positive birth, and postpartum recovery.
We are glad to have you with us on this journey and that you have chosen us to support you.
Welcome to the MamasteFit Podcast. On this episode, we have Victoria here to share her birth story. Thank you so much, Victoria, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. So you're going to be sharing two birth stories with us today. So let's dive into the first one. What did you do to prepare for your first pregnancy?
So for my first pregnancy, I think at that point in my life, it was in 2021 is when I got pregnant with my first. And I felt like I was extremely healthy. I felt like that was like the healthiest I had been in a while. And when I got pregnant, I suddenly got hit with that like major nausea, the bad morning sickness, like at 6 weeks. I think that's when like it really hit. And so suddenly I couldn't eat so healthy anymore. And I was pretty much just like stuck with potato and egg breakfast tacos. That's what I was like always eating with my first pregnancy. But to prepare for that pregnancy, I actually found you guys, and I can't remember how I found you, if it was on YouTube or I just found your birth course. But my husband and I completed that full childbirth education course for the first pregnancy, and I learned a lot through that course. But I think there is a difference, and I'll mention this as I get to my second pregnancy, but I think for the first one, I was a little bit closed off and a little bit nervous about thinking about, how am I actually going to have this baby? Like, how is he actually going to come out of me? And so sometimes when we were watching y'all's birth course, I started feeling like I would close off to actually trying to imagine the reality of him coming out, I guess. So while I learned a lot, that first pregnancy, I felt like I had a lot of fear still about just about birth, I think. And so, yeah, that was kind of how I prepared at first. But I was a newbie and I felt unsure about what to expect.
Yeah. So how did the end of your pregnancy into your birth, the birth story go?
So, so with my first pregnancy, right, I had that bad nausea, and then when I got to second trimester, I felt really good. Like, this is when I felt, okay, I feel really good. And then the third trimester, I think it was about the third trimester, I started getting that pelvic pain. And, like when you can't really move side to side in bed, it really hurts. And so I dealt with that a lot as I was getting closer to the end. And I was quite fearful with this first pregnancy. I was fearful about him coming spontaneously. I wanted my mom to be there. I wanted like the support. And whenever I was talking to my OB, she told me, well, this one weekend I am on call when you turn 39 weeks. So if you want, we could induce you. And I had already known, like, my sister had been induced, and so I was familiar with, like, this process. I knew, so I thought, okay, well, I could do that, you know, because then I can have my parents come and they'll be there for me. And so I thought, okay, I'll do it. The 39 weeks elective induction, which some people love. But for me, it didn't quite go that way. So I was scheduled to get induced on April 15th of 2022. And when that morning came, they pushed me back right to the end of the day because pregnant women who were in labor were coming in. So eventually I went in, and this is when I went in, they gave me, when I first got there, I think it was Cytotec. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got, okay. So I got Cytotec, and that night, April 15th, that was the last time I could eat. So that was actually the last time they told me I could eat, because they weren't going to let me eat after the induction continued. So I ate that night, and they gave me Cytotec, and they had me set up to the monitors, right? The monitors are on my belly. And I remember all night long, they would come in and they would have to adjust my belly monitors because my baby was moving all over the place. And they would do that, like they would scrub on my belly, I guess trying to get the sticky off, or like try to get the stickies. I don't know. You'll notice that once I start getting deeper into this birth story, I have less memory because a lot of this stuff that started happening to me is like a lot of different kind of interventions were involved. I started kind of losing some of my awareness, I guess. I don't know how to describe that. But yeah, so all night long, I had people coming in and like touching my belly, trying to move it because, we lost him. Like, we need to find him again. So the next day, though, that's when they put me on Pitocin. And that's when the contractions started to get more frequent. And I felt like I was having a harder time dealing with them because I couldn't move, couldn't really do any, like, with the all the monitors on me. And I felt, again, like, it's weird looking back at this because I have so much more knowledge now. And after doing y'all's course and everything, and even though I had done the course then, the reality of actually having it happen to me and kind of being closed off to thinking about it during my pregnancy, I think affected that experience a little bit. So they did give me IV pain meds that day that they put me on Pitocin. And they helped my contractions a bit, but I will tell you this, I cannot remember. I really can't remember much of anything when I was on those IV meds. Yeah. And so that's why, like, if I'm looking down a little bit, I have some notes written down because I had to look back through my phone at text messages that my husband was sending my parents and my family at the time. Oh. Yeah, because I couldn't remember. Yeah. I can't remember now exactly all that stuff. So, I remember the pain kept getting worse, but I still made no progress. I will say, when I went in for the induction, I think I was like at a 1. I think I was at a 1. So it was it was very, very small progress. And I know, of course, like, it could change, but I was at a 1 and I was a first-time mom. So I got an epidural that day, like around 11. I think it was around 11. And then my doctor broke my water at 1 p.m. This is like around 1 p.m. That's when she broke my water. And so, and I will say this, I love my doctor, like my OB. She was my OB for both, and I really love her. And so she was trying to help me get to the point I needed to get to. But when I look back at it now, everyone was kind, everyone was really sweet at the hospital, but I felt like I wasn't an active participant. I felt like it was happening to me, and I was just agreeing to whatever was offered to me because I was in pain and I wanted to get the baby out. I really just was like, I need to get him out. So they continue to check my cervix very frequently. So that was another thing. I just let that happen a lot. With this part, I was like, okay, just check me, just see, am I closer? Am I any closer? So it looks like around 4 p.m. I was at 3 centimeters and 70% effaced. So I really wasn't dilating. So they had me on my side, like flipping me back and forth with the peanut ball. And I remember this very specific thing about having an epidural is that I hated how my legs felt. I called them corpse legs because I felt like if anyone like touched my leg,
Valid.
yeah, it felt like that's not me. That's not my leg.
Not my
yeah,
body.
it's not me.
Yeah.
And so they touched it and it felt, I didn't feel it, but I felt gross. Yeah. So
I've heard that before from someone. They're like, I don't enjoy this. I do not like this at all.
awful. Yeah. So that night, that's when like I felt some of the worst pain because I had an epidural, but it kept on like wearing off. I couldn't feel my legs, but I could feel everything in my torso and I felt it in my back. My back was just that's where I was really feeling the pain in my back. And the nurse was checking me and I remember I was still at a 3. And that was when I was like breaking down with my husband. I was crying to him. And I remember he jokes about this now, but I grabbed his throat, because I was just like desperate. I was like, please, like, I need this to end. And I thought I made a big mistake having this, induction. I felt like I made a big mistake and I felt like, there was no way the baby was going to come out of me. I thought they're going to have to just like cut him out of me. It's because I was just like, please, like, I couldn't keep having this pain and like, I couldn't move and nothing was helping me. So they had Pitocin up to the highest setting. They put it up to the highest setting. So I went from like a 15 to a 30. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the numbers are told to me, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what those.
That is a lot of Pitocin.
Yeah. Okay. So I went from like a 15 to a 30, and then they had me take a break completely. And so then around like 12 a.m. of April 17th, and that was actually Easter morning, because that Easter Sunday, but I was finally at 4 and my cervix was thin. So they redid the epidural, and they gave me a sleep aid to help me sleep. I don't know what it was, but they helped me sleep. And then at 2 a.m. I was near a 5 and I felt a lot of pressure. And at this point, I didn't know this, but I know this now because I looked back at the text messages, but I had a fever. And, so I believe like I got the infection then or around that time because I did get infection. But I know this because my husband sent, so he knew, I guess, that I had the fever. But I don't recall anyone telling me. If they did, I don't remember it. And about 6 a.m., my husband texted me for my mom to get to the hospital because I was going to push soon. So yeah, so I finally got to this. Yeah, it's like at that point, it was like all this time. And then, okay, now you're ready. Yeah, it's like that nap. I don't know the nap I had. Yeah. The pushing now, like this is when I can get to a positive part of my first story, is that's when I felt most empowered. I felt like finally I'm doing something finally. So I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten since April 15th and I was at the 17th now. All they gave me were like, you get ice chips, you get popsicles.
Yeah, not sustainable.
Yeah, that's all I got. And so when I was finally getting to push, and I'm on my back. That's, got the epidural. That's where I am. There's this nurse who is coaching me, and I got my husband on one side and my mom's on the other side. And I'm pushing, and my son keeps on like kind of coming out and going back in, coming out and going back in. Yeah, that's as they do. Yeah, that's what he's doing. And so I'm like, okay, just keep pushing. I feel like every time the nurse would tell me to push, but I could feel like my contractions at this point, even though I had that epidural and my legs were still numb. But I could feel when I needed a push, and it felt like good. It felt like good to push. So I was pushing, and I could see like my toes start to move. If that's like I started getting feeling back, and it took me about 2 hours to push. So it was about 2 hours. I know that's not the longest time. Some people,
That's still a long time.
It was exhausting. And so like in between pushes, I feel like I would disassociate a little bit. I was kind of like not there. I could hear my mom and my husband talking to the nurse. I would like kind of tell them like, stop talking, don't talk. And then they were like, oh, okay. But when he finally came out, that was so surreal. I felt like, oh wow, okay, there's real baby, because I had known this person was in my body this whole time, and then finally I get to see him. And I thought, oh, like, I just felt like, wow, he's so beautiful. I didn't expect him to be so beautiful. He had, oh, I hear yours. He had red hair, and oh, I can't, the baby noises just get me.
I know.
But what I didn't expect was the violent shaking after birth. And so this part, it when I talk to people about this part, it hurts me a little bit because it wasn't what I had expected it to be. It was that I was shaking so hard. The nurses come over and they like take my bra down and they're like, okay, nurse him. I couldn't physically hold him. I felt like I was just so weak. And again, this is almost 3 years ago that I had my son. So I feel like I'm separated enough from the moment to have like a way to look at it now more clearly. But at that moment I felt just utterly exhausted. I had no energy. And I wanted to hold him. But I couldn't. And so, some of these things that I feel like I regret, I don't know why the nurses were so adamant he needed to eat right away, but they gave my husband a little formula. And so he gave him some formula. And I don't know if that was because I had a fever, if they were worried about him. They had to get him checked out at I don't want to say NICU, but they had him checked out before, just to
special,
just to make sure. He was very large-headed because my husband, he's got a big noggin.
Same. We feel you.
So it was like 90th percentile, those heads. But he was okay. Like my little boy, he was okay. And so I got transferred to postpartum, and everything did seem okay at first. So like Nick, my mom, my dad came. Sorry, Nick is my husband. My mom, my dad, and my two little younger sisters came to see me, and in postpartum, which it was a surprise. My sisters, I didn't expect them to be there. I went to the bathroom, and I looked down. The nurse is like helping me in there, and I'm pouring blood. Like blood is pouring. I didn't know if that was normal or not. And I just asked her, is this normal? And this nurse, I'm so thankful for her, because she was such a she was like a no nonsense, but not cruel. Like she's very but she just like, okay, let's get you out of here. Like just got me out and told my sisters and we need to clear out everyone who doesn't need to be in here. You need to clear out like right now. So my dad and my two younger sisters left. My husband was holding Miles, our son. I can't recall if he asked me do you need me? He was holding the baby. He's like, I got him. So I knew I was okay. My mom was right by me, and a ton of doctors were coming into the room suddenly. And this was the worst pain. They she put her hands into me and was pulling out blood clots, and I was screaming because I was worried she was going to rip my stitches. Like, I don't know if that was I was very worried about that. Yeah. And I felt everything. And and it was worse pain. I was holding on to my mom. And this, I think, was why, I think a lot of these things, just kind of building up into it, was why I had such a bad, anxiety postpartum. And I had a really bad postpartum experience. My husband also, like, he was traumatized from that moment because he thought I was going to die, because he saw blood pouring out of me, and just, to try to, it was bad. But I was okay eventually. Like, they check you after that. They try to make sure, like, you push on your belly and everything and try to make sure you're okay. So I went home eventually. Like, we had to stay a bit because I had the infection. They want to check me and check my son. But for my postpartum, it was difficult, right? My son had a level 4 tongue tie, almost a level 4. It was close to level 4 tongue tie. So nursing was very hard, and I also did not prepare myself enough for what nursing really was. So I had to do a lot of pumping and giving it to the bottle. We nursed for like a couple of months after he did eventually get his tongue tie released, because it was very hard for him to move his tongue. It was like that kind of way, they called it like a whale tail, kind of. I don't know. It was.
Oh, so it like went almost all the way to the tip.
Yes, exactly. It was almost there. It like kind of curved inward. But we got the hang of stuff, right? We eventually got the hang of stuff. I did need to get some medication from my doctor because I was having extreme panics about his safety. I worried every night when I went to sleep, like, he's not going to wake up. I worried I would wake up just in like gasping for air because I fell asleep and I thought he wasn't going to be okay. I would have to like ask, I couldn't sleep, or either I would make my husband stay awake. I had to like make sure he was okay. My mom, of course, like stayed with us for a couple weeks. My dad would come, and they were, holding him when I couldn't hold him or when Nick needed sleep. And that's not sustainable. We can't do it like that, but that's the way I felt at that time until like medication eventually kind of helped me with what was going on. Yeah, but I will say, like, it was a hard moment, that postpartum, but I did eventually find my groove, and I eventually found like, okay, I'm his mother and I know how to be his mother. And, I got to a point, like, I couldn't imagine being anything else. I had a hard time for a little bit, like, thinking about how am I his mother? And I'm also like, this PhD student, because at the same time I was working on my PhD. And eventually, like, I found myself, like, as he grew, and I kind of found this balance. I think around 4 months, maybe, I felt like, okay, I'm going to start. I started teaching again, and I started working on my PhD, my dissertation, and I was able to like find a groove, and I was able to, pump, and I was still able to feed him with my body. And I found like this sweet spot. And I just adored like our moments, like just being with each other. And like ultimately my relationship with my firstborn and being a mom to him is what, like, why I wanted another one, So I guess that gets me into my next story. Unless you had any questions or anything to.
No, I'll ask all my questions at the end. Hopefully I don't forget them. Because I think that your first birth story, as well as your first postpartum, is probably something that a lot of people can resonate with, and that also likely probably also felt in their first labor, birth, and postpartum. Because that first baby can be such a transition, even if you like maybe have like in your mind the perfect birth. Postpartum can still be so hard with that first baby because so many things, but you also had a lot of things that could increase the likelihood of having that postpartum anxiety, to the point that it's like you had so much support, like your family was so supportive of you, but like so many other things could contribute to that postpartum anxiety. And that is why medication is great when it's available and it's needed. So I don't want you to feel like alone in that experience. And that's like a very unfortunately common experience. I wish it was rarer because people are just supported and everything. But I think other people will feel very heard and seen from your story. So I really thank you for sharing it with us. But let us get into your second one, because I saw your baby. They're so cute. So I want to know their birth story. So how did you prepare differently for that birth and pregnancy than you did for your first? So I know you took our childbirth education, but you're still like very not very open, but like you were still very nervous and fearful of the birth process. So like maybe did it like take all of that information in, which totally fine, very common. So what did you do differently in your second pregnancy in preparation for pregnancy and birth?
So my second one, it was very different, right? So I got pregnant in December of the year before, before last, and I knew I wanted a different story. I just knew I wanted it to be different. I wanted to nurse, and I really did want to deliver my baby without an epidural because I personally hated my epidural because I felt like it didn't give me pain relief. I felt like it didn't, all it did was like prevent me from moving. So for me personally, I just didn't want to. I was, of course, like, I'll probably change my mind. In the back of my head, I'm like, I'll probably change my mind, right? But I don't want it. But I made it clear to my OB throughout that pregnancy that I didn't want to be induced, even though I wasn't forced the first time, of course, not at all. That was my choice. I made it clear to her that I didn't want to do it this time. So unless I had to, unless there was some sort of valid reason. So throughout the second pregnancy, I followed actually I did your pelvic pain program to try to manage my the SPD pain.
Yes, that front pubic.
Yes, I couldn't like spread your legs, right? So because I actually started having that pain in the second trimester, and it just progressively got worse. And my second son, Luke, he was measuring heavier and larger.
As they do.
Yes, heavier and larger than Miles. And I felt it. I believed them because I felt it. So I had to wear a belly band, just basically whenever I was walking. Most of the time when I was walking, I was like, I need to wear this thing because I just felt it. It was like my back was being pulled. So I had to do that. But we did do your childbirth education course again. So it was the same childbirth course, of course. We did it again. And I think y'all added stuff to it also since the last time.
We did.
Because at this point, my first son was about 3. And so it had been a couple years since.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely added like way more.
Yeah, so we got like
the audio was better.
We got like new videos, new things to look at. And so even though I had been through it, I was listening to you guys talk about like what questions to ask, the interventions that are necessary, or what, like how you can say, maybe I don't want this thing to happen to me, or how you can refuse cervical checks if you don't want them. Like, it's your body. And so I was really listening to all of that with a different focus in my head. And I think I listened to y'all's podcast too. I listened to like all of your podcasts. That's why I was like your top listener for that last year, because I was very focused on, I want to listen to every experience that, that they're like different people's experiences with having, natural births or unmedicated, I guess I could say, because it's all natural. So I listened to a lot of that, and I really resolved in my head. I told my husband, like, this is what I want, I really want, and he was supportive of me. So at about 38 weeks pregnant, I'll start there, I was having that tons of back pain, on and off contractions, along with I was starting to get spotting and discharge. And this was all new to me because with my first one, it was an induction. And so I didn't get this kind of like signs of labor. I didn't ever have that. So this felt like a new first time again. So the night before I was going to go see my OB for that like 38-week checkup, I woke up at 3 a.m. And this was August 20th of last year, so 2025. And I had this uncomfortable period-like cramps. It felt like my period was coming on. That's how I can describe it, right? And I had this brown and red discharge. And I don't know what it was, but I called my mom and I just said, you should come tomorrow, when my dad was going to be coming to watch my firstborn while my husband and I went to the OB together. He was going to just watch him, but we thought it would just be a regular thing. Because my parents live about 2 hours away. That's why I was like, you need to come, right? That kind of thing.
Oh,
that's why there's a bit of a, so I told her.
Bit of a drive.
Yeah, that's also why my first pregnancy, I was like so eager. I want them to be with me. So, because they don't live right down the road or anything. They're a little bit away. So I told my mom to come. And so she's like, okay, I'll be there. Like, cause I called her and she picked up the phone cause she had her volume on, she had her volume on cause she knew she could be in labor any day. I'm going to make sure. And she's due in August. I'm going to make sure. And so, I went back to sleep. And I woke up in the morning, took my son to school cause he's in like half day school, and my contractions seemed like they were done. I was like, okay, they're over. So I worried I called my mom for no reason, but they still came. My mom still came. She's like, I'm still going to come. So my mom and dad came, they watched my son, and, at the OB, I did ask for a cervical check because this was my first one. And I was like, okay, I just want to see, And so I was about 3 centimeters dilated and 60% effaced. So I was like, whoa, okay, so I'm doing something, right?
Yeah.
So that night was rough again. And this was August 21st. So I woke up at 3 a.m. again. I don't know what it is about 3 a.m., but it's 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's always 3 a.m.
And I saw my mucus plug in the toilet. And I didn't know what it was, of course, because I'd never had this happen to me, but I was like Googling, what is this? Is this a mucus plug? The pain was worse this night, though. It was worse. I felt this like build and peak which you guys were talking about in your course, which I will say, like, I feel like I didn't feel those build and peak contractions the same way with my induction. I felt like it was kind of constant pain. I don't know how to describe it. It was different this time, not like the way it was happening to me on my own. So the pain would build and peak, and it would start in my hips and my butt, and then it would, then it would subdue, but it would start there. But then by daylight, it would calm down. My contractions would calm down. And so before the sun came up, I was swaying with my husband. I was moaning. It was really painful. Like, I have notes, like, reminding myself this was painful because at this point it kind of fades. You kind of forget the pain. I've forgotten it now. I don't remember it hurting that bad anymore, but I know it did at that time. But I remember that day I just felt wrong. So like my firstborn, he got fussy during lunch, and I ran into the bathroom and I was crying, and I had contractions on and off throughout that day. But again, once I put my firstborn to sleep at night, it's like, then that's when they would pick up again. My contractions pick up. So I remember that night, that was the last night I put him to sleep before he became a big brother. I sang him his songs, and we prayed together, and I cuddled him, and then I went downstairs and watched TV with my mom, and then the contractions started again. And they were strong contractions. And I would be like laughing and joking with my mom, talking to her, and then all of a sudden I was like on the couch, unable to move. I was just like unable to move because it would hit me. And my mom was worried. Yeah, she was worried. She's like, okay, are you okay? So my mom and my husband, they were worried about me. And though I protested, I was like, I don't think I need to go to the hospital. My mom was like, I think you should go. And my husband was like, we need to decide what we're doing, because either I go to sleep or we go to the hospital, so we went. But even trying to get to the car, and it was around 9 or 10 p.m. at night, trying to get to the car to leave for the hospital, I was unable to move. Like when the contraction would hit, I couldn't move. I was crying out in pain. So I was like, this gotta be real, right? This gotta be it. Every bump on our trip was painful, every bump. But I felt like I was really coping well at this point. I really did. I thought I was singing along to the songs in the car, and then I would pause when I had a contraction. Okay, breathe through it, at like the low noises, and then I was okay, and we got there. So I felt like I was coping well. I felt like I was coping well at home too. You know, like I thought I'm doing okay. When we get to the hospital for triage, we had called ahead, and so I get there, and I'm like unable to really move. I'm kind of crying out through contractions, like, okay, pausing. And we get there, like I have to pause to walk. When we get to the triage, they get me into a bed, and they strap me to a monitor on my belly. And I remember that was like, okay, no, now I can't move. Now I'm stuck. And I started feeling like worse pain. I just felt worse pain. For me, that was really hard. I felt like I was coping so well. And then being unable to move, I just had a rough time. So they checked me, and I was at a 3 still. I was still at a 3. And so I was like, okay, I know what you guys say. It's just like your dilation is just a moment in time. I remember you guys saying that, and that's what I had in my head. But I was like, okay, I thought that pain meant like I was about to push him out or something. I thought we were getting there. This is where, so the nurse tells me, you're not in active labor. You're basically having contractions that just aren't making any cervical change. That's what she told me. And I was just like feeling really defeated at that point. But what was worse is like, she found out, I don't remember who said it, like me or my husband, or how it came out, like that I was planning to deliver unmedicated. I didn't want medication. I think it came out because I said, well, I should go home if I'm not there. Like I was like, I need to go back home then, because I can't be here this early. I don't want to have an epidural. I want to do this unmedicated. And she was like, well, if you're in this bad of pain at this point, you might want to reconsider an epidural. Like if you're having this much pain and you're not even really in labor, then you might want to have an epidural.
I hate it.
That really was awful to hear. It was awful to hear that. And I just thought, and I don't know why she would say this. She was trying to say like, yeah, you know, like, and I had my epidural and I was good, like, you know, like trying to give her experience with, like, that's fine, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And also it's invalidating the pain I was in, even though I'm only at a 3. That was bad pain. I'm in bad pain. But what was funny now looking in hindsight is I was sitting there and my husband's like trying to comfort me a little bit, you know, because they would leave. They kept coming back in like, oh, let's check the baby. They just wanted to check him. I don't check how he was doing before they let me go. That was what they were saying. Like, we need to check before they let you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And
with like the monitors.
Yeah, they just wanted to see. And so I was just like, okay. But almost out of spite, I guess, I was just like blank face through my contractions. They hurt so bad, but I was just like, I'm not even going to make a peep. I was just so upset because of what she's told me. And I thought, well, this isn't real anyways. So I was just like, I'm holding it in. And my husband's like, hey, are you okay? Do you need my hand? I'm just like, like, I'm not. I was so upset. But they monitored my baby for a while and he kept moving. And eventually they're like, okay, well, I guess, you know, you can leave now. And I'll tell you, I'm not quite sure if they wanted me to stay or leave. I've talked to my husband about this. I couldn't really tell because they said I wasn't in active labor, but they wanted me to stay longer. So I don't really know why. I'm not really sure. They were just like, we just need to check. If you left now, it would be against our medical advice. That's what they were saying. But it was like they had to check my son for so long. That's what they were telling me. And by the time they were done, they're like, okay, you can leave now. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go then. And so, on the way home, man, that drive home was the worst. It was the worst. I felt like my morale was just shot. The pain felt 10 times worse. And I think it was just because in my mental, my head was like, I thought I was going to be able to do this. And then I can't do it, apparently. So I got home. I tried to get in the bathtub, and I remember thinking, because before the bathtub kind of helped my contractions slow down or be manageable, but it wouldn't stop. The pain wouldn't subside. So I got into bed and laid on my side with the pillow between my legs. And my husband went to sleep because he's like, I got to sleep for if we're going to go in the morning or if we're going to do anything, I need to sleep some, right? So he went to sleep. And I kept thinking, this pain has to end at some point. All the other nights it's ended, and the morning comes, I'm going to feel okay. So it'll be fine. So I kept on just trying to go to sleep, but I couldn't go to sleep, right? Because you can't sleep through that pain. And I think I even took, like, I can't remember if I got Tylenol or Benadryl. Like something did nothing to me. So I was there, and every time I would have a contraction, I just kind of like, and I would like try to like, I would soothe myself in different ways, you know? But I just kept thinking again, in the morning, I'm going to take my son to school. It's going to be done. And then I was also like telling myself, I'm going to tell my OB, I just want an induction. I just want to get this done with, because I can't have this every night happen to me. I can't just be in pain. So I laid in bed from about, like when we got home, you know, from about 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I will say this was the time span that I was in bed. And I was mostly on my left side with the pillow between my legs. But I got up a few times and I did like inversions. So like some of those moves that you guys do with your birth prep, I did inversions. I did a puppy pose with like my butt in the air, my face is in the pillow. I thought like, I got to get like pressure off my cervix. I thought maybe if I move, maybe his head will get off. I don't know what it was. I was just like, I got to get this off. But I kept on having that feeling that would build in my hips and my butt, and it would just like peak, and then it would go. I'm like, okay, I'm okay for now. And then it would come back until I realized there is no break. I am not ever having a break from this. And I thought, how is that normal? Why am I not having a break? So I kept looking at the clock and thinking like, it's never ending. It's not like 5 minutes, not like 3 minutes. It's like never ending. But again, I thought I wasn't in labor. I thought I wasn't in active labor, at least. I went to the bathroom and to pee. So I thought maybe I just need to pee. And when I was on the toilet, I remember feeling like, I feel okay right here. I like feel a little bit better. And I was like calling my husband because the bathroom was in our bathroom and in our bedroom. And I was like, hey, Nick. And then my water just broke, gushed out.
I mean, glad you're on the toilet.
Yeah, it just gushed. Sorry, what I forgot to say though is that the reason I got up out of bed anyway to pee is because I noticed that when I was going through the contractions, I felt myself pushing, and I didn't realize like at first, but I started feeling this like that pressure in my perineum area, and I was like, oh, I think I'm pushing. So that's why I got up, and when I got on the toilet, I felt like, oh, a contraction came, and I pushed. I don't know if it was involuntary or like what was happening, but it was like, it just happened. I couldn't really help it. And so my water broke, and I screamed for Nick, and I was like, oh, my water broke. And he comes in. This was around 5:30. He says it was around 5:30. So I don't know. I believe him. I can't remember.
You weren't looking at a clock.
Yeah, exactly. So my mom came running in, or he went and got my mom because she was still staying with us. And my dad had left actually because he had went home to like take care of their pets. And so he wasn't there, but my mom was, and my son's still asleep, my firstborn. And I like my mom comes in, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just pushing. I can't stop pushing. And she's like, oh, baby, don't push. Baby, don't push right now. So we try to like get myself down the stairs, which was just very hard to do. I could not move. My husband is asking me like, do I call her a hospital to like prepare them like that you're coming? Like, I was like, I don't think I can get in the car. I don't think I can stay. I couldn't, because I had this thought of like what I had been through before in the car. I couldn't sit down, and like, I don't think so. And so he like, I called 911. I was like, call 911. Like, that's all I could do. I didn't know what to do. Okay. Like I thought the baby was coming out because I couldn't stop pushing. And so they called 911. My husband, just like his empathy for me, his love for me, he was like tunnel visioning and having like, because he had gotten up so quick, he was worried about me. And so he like, when we got downstairs finally, he would like sat on the floor, and my mom had to talk on the phone to the operator, saying they're going to send EMS, and I'm like crouched down on the floor, involuntarily pushing still. I'm still pushing. And I had gotten into my robe, birth, gown. I had gotten into a gown I had bought. So that way I was like, it was good just in case, I didn't have pants on. I was in my gown. And so I was down there, and my mom's like, hey, but don't push baby, like just trying to encourage me, because she's like, she thought, yeah, this baby's going to come here. Right. Which like looking back on, I'm like, yeah, I could have done it. I could have done it, but we weren't prepared for it. And we still had this fear of like my past hemorrhaging that I wanted to be at the hospital. And so it's just, that's what we wanted to do, because that hemorrhaging in my head too. And so, EMS came, and they got me on the stretcher. They took me to the ambulance, and I was like, okay, but like Nick's going to come behind me. He's going to drive in the van behind me. I was worried about him because he had been lightheaded and everything. And I was like, he's going to get in a car crash. Like, I just thought that something's going to happen to him, but he was okay. So on the drive there, they got me hooked up to an IV in the ambulance. I was holding on to this man's leg. I remember like not thinking clearly. They were like, is the baby here? They like, and I said, you can't check me. You can't check me. My water broke and I don't want to get an infection. Like, I don't know what, I was just like in my, we're not going to check you, man. Like, it's okay.
They will not check
you.
Yeah.
I was like, I was not. I was just like, please, don't touch me. But, no, they were so nice. I was in the stretcher, and I held onto this guy's leg, and I was like, I am sorry. He was the oldest of the guys that were there. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm just in so much pain. And he's like, no, you do what you gotta do. And so I held onto his leg through those contractions. And I remember just being in the ambulance. They told me like, we have to take you to the closest hospital. So we weren't even going to go to my hospital where my OB was. And I was kind of upset about that. But they're like, no, you're going to go to the closest hospital, which funny enough, St. Luke's. That's what the hospital is, which is my baby's name. That's not why we named him that. So they took me to the closest hospital, and they told my husband, like, you need to go there. So I get on the stretcher. They take me out, get me to a room, and I'm just asking, like, is my husband coming? I need my husband. I need him to get here. They get me hooked up to stuff. I don't know. Stuff like hooked up to stuff like IV, I don't know, fluid. Fluid. They're gonna give me fluid. That's what it was. And in my head, I was like thinking, I'm gonna get an epidural. I'm telling him, I'm gonna get pain meds. I'm like, sure, yeah, okay. Like, and I did let them check me, and they told me I was at an 8 at that point. That I was at an 8. Don't know if it was super accurate, because it was like a hard check, but that's what they told me. And I kept on getting on my side. That was the side I wanted to stay on my side. And so my husband eventually got there. And when he got there, I really just like let my body do what it wanted to do. I was sort of push. I wasn't telling them I was pushing, because I thought they were going to tell me to stop pushing, but I was like, yeah, it's happening. And I was just like letting it happen, and like, all the grunting, all of this stuff. But the nurse was like, I need to check where you are now. And I said, no, you're not checking me right now. Like, because I was in a contraction. So I was very, very, and my husband was like, no, leave her alone. Like, just leave her alone. And so the nurse was like, oh my God, cause she wanted to check and see where I was probably. But, I'm like, okay, after it passed, I'm like, okay, now you can check me. You can check now. She's like, oh, there's the head. Okay. So he was coming out, and, he, I was crying, like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? I had wanted to do this unmedicated, but I hadn't thought I was like, it was finally here. And I was like, whoa, am I going to do this? And one of the doctors or a nurse came to my face, and she was like, you're going to do this. You got this. And I was pushing, I pushed on my side. I still was pushing on my side. I guess someone had my leg up. I don't know, but I don't even know. Like, I was opening my legs, I think, but he just was coming out on my side. He came out so fast. Like, I can't tell you. I felt the burningness more with my first son than I did with my second son, and I was unmedicated. Because, like, it just happened so fast. Like I pushed and they're just like push and he was out. I don't even know how many pushes it took, but he came out so fast. And it was just from 5:30 to 7, my water broke, and then he was born at 5:30, and then he was born at 7. And so it was a quick happened quick. And I told that moment, like when I look back at that, I love that moment. I just felt like so grateful. It was so beautiful to me, because it felt like a familiar, like I know this because I felt him and I smelled him, and it's like that moment of feeling your newborn again, that moment. But also, like, it happened more in my time, even though it might not sound like it, right? Like, because I had an ambulance come and everything was so fast, but it happened the way I wanted it to happen. I got to stay home until the last moment. And so I got to like do it the way I wanted to. And so I felt so grateful. And so I got to hold him while they like pulled the placenta out. Like they took their time too. They didn't push it on me. Like it took a little time, and then she kind of tugged it out a little bit, and it came out with pushes. I held him, and they stitched me up. Like I tore the same way I tore with my first. It was like 2nd degree. So it was the same, but I held him, and it's not comfortable, right? But it was not painful to me, when they're like dealing, because I had him and I was so happy. I felt so accomplished, and I just kept telling my husband, like, I did it. This baby, he was over 8 pounds, and his head, again, it was 90th plus percentile. It was a very big head. But he was very healthy, and they gave me time too to hold him before I finally was like, okay, let's try to nurse him. And he latched, and it was just like so magical, because it felt like, again, it was like on my time. I was shaky, yes, but it wasn't like the shakiness that I had with my first. I felt like it was controllable, like I could hold my baby still. And I think because he wasn't taken away from me to like given formula against my wishes. He was with me the whole time, and I just nursed him. I continued to nurse. Like, we're going to make this work. I use those silverettes to try to help,
they're so magic.
Yeah, I was prepared for a tongue tie, but he actually didn't have one. So that really,
awesome.
To me, it made a difference.
No, that does make a difference.
Yeah, but also, like, I had lactation come to the room, and she just helped me, like, figure out how to hold him right for me. And my milk came in way quicker with this one. I think it took a couple of days, like, the milk, like, really coming in. And this one, it was like a day. I think it came in fast. So I will say for this postpartum, though, while the first one, I think my pelvic pain kind of went away pretty soon after I delivered. This one, it stayed. I had to do pelvic floor therapy to kind of figure out, like, they were telling me, like, what was wrong with my, like, what was going on with my pelvis. Like, I was not aligned and stuff, and I had to strengthen it a lot, because that pain that I had in pregnancy, which was like crying out, I couldn't really move my legs, I couldn't turn in bed. It was still there. So it doesn't go away when you birth, right? But over time, I feel a lot better now. I'm almost I'm 5 months postpartum, almost 6 months. And, I've gotten a lot stronger, again. And so I feel a lot better. So I didn't have hemorrhaging. This time, and I didn't, have as bad anxiety either. I felt a lot better. Of course, had anxieties, right? Of course, like, postpartum is, like, for me, like, I'm already an anxious person. I have, like, OCD stuff, and so my brain does do that kind of mean stuff to me, but it was not nearly like my first one. And so seeing him, like, seeing my older son meet his little brothers, it's been a transition, of course, because he's kind of like, I don't know, sometimes, like, oh, I love you, Luke, and then, oh, I don't like you, Luke. So it's like on and off, but having them together and seeing them their brother relationship is so sweet. So yeah, I feel very happy with my second labor, and I felt like there was a lot of healing that happened, and I like not like that he healed me because it's not on my children to heal me with stuff, right? But it was that I felt like I was able to take agency over things that I wanted, things that I could control, and the things that I couldn't control, I was okay with, so that's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love watching you tell your two stories too, because I could feel the sadness when you were telling your first one that you have about it. And then with the second one, you couldn't stop smiling the entire time. So like I could tell that you feel better about the second one and healed almost, but also that you were such a badass, for lack of a better word. You took ownership of your entire body, what happened to it, and you were very empowered during the entire experience to be able to tell them what you wanted and what you didn't want to happen to you, which is what we want. It's not like unmedicated birth is never the goal. It is feeling like a total bomb-ass mom after you have your baby, that you were like, I am so amazing. I am a birthing goddess. I got to tell the world what I wanted, and that's what happened in my birth, regardless of if it was what you wanted. Like, you almost had your baby at home. Maybe that wasn't what you were wanting. And so you knew, like, there were people that would probably be like, why get in that car? We're just going to have the baby here. But you're like, no, I don't want to have this baby here. We need to get to the hospital. And so you made that happen even in the middle of your labor. So, like, boss. And your postpartum, a little bit better than your first. Didn't hemorrhage. Not shockingly, after your first experience, the fact that you didn't hemorrhage because you didn't have a 3-day induction with an infection, that'll do it. But thank you so much, Victoria, for sharing your two stories. I think that this would be an amazing story for people to listen to and learn a lot from, and also hopefully bring into their births to be able to empower them to make choices or feel confident in their bodies. If there was one piece of advice that you could give our listeners, or even like your past self, what would that one piece of advice be?
This is going to sound cliche, but trust your body. I would tell myself the first time around, trust your body. You will not grow a baby that's going to be too big for you. That's what I was fearful of that in the first time around, because I was very uncomfortable, and I thought, oh, I need to do it at 39 weeks or he's going to get too big. That was part of my fear. And I clearly was able to birth a baby that was bigger than my first even. And so I would tell myself, trust your body. And also, don't be afraid to tell people what they can and can't do to your body. So like with the cervical checks and stuff, with the nurse really wanted to check me and I was having a contraction. No, you're not going to check me right now. And that's okay. You don't need to just roll over and let them do it. It's your body still. So that's what I would really recommend. Trust your body.
I love that one. Love that one. Because yes, you are still the controlling power of what happens to your body, even when you're in a hospital and in labor. They can't decide what happens to you. Like, you still have to say yes or no. And then they have to go along with it if you say no. It's not refusing, it's just declining. You're not being combative. You're just being like, not right now, or no thank you. So I love that one. Yeah. But thank you so much, Victoria. Yeah, and trust your body
too, because the nurses told me that I wasn't in labor.
You were not in labor.
That was what I was going to ask you about, actually. Why do you think it happened that way? Why do you think they thought I wasn't in labor? And it seemed I wasn't, but I was.
I mean, you were only 3 centimeters, which you were 3 centimeters at the clinic. So in their minds, because you had no cervical change, that indicates you were not in labor. But as we know, cervical dilation is just a moment in time. I would be very curious what your effacement was, as well as what was baby's station, because dilation is not the only picture. Like, was baby lower in your pelvis? Were you more thinned out? Because those are signs you are in labor. And especially like someone who has had a baby before, you can go from 3 centimeters to a baby like real quick, which maybe is why they wanted to keep you longer, just in case like you shifted maybe while you were in triage. I'm not sure. But that's probably why they told you that. It's unfortunate. I do hate that she tried to tell you that if you're only 3 centimeters and you were in this much pain, like you should probably just get an epidural, because it's not very encouraging or empowering, but you did it. So
yeah, exactly. I felt very like, wow, I did that. I wish they could know, but I know. Yeah.
I know. If only you could have like gone back and be like, I had her, or I had him without an epidural. You were wrong. But you did go to that hospital. So, but it looks like he's hungry. Hello, little one. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. They're so cute. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your 2 beautiful stories with us. I know that our listeners will definitely take something out of this birth. So thank you for sharing your vulnerable stories with us and something that's so special to you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys so much. I think everyone who's pregnant should listen to you guys, because gosh, like you helped me so much, and postpartum too. All the stuff postpartum too is really helpful for me.
Oh, thank you.
So I can't even count all the tips you've given me. That's gotten me through motherhood. So like, yeah, everyone needs to listen to you guys.
Well, that's why we do it, because we love to support people, and not just pregnancy, but also postpartum and beyond, and preconception, because this could be a very lonely time. And there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. So,
well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Victoria's 2 birth stories, and I hope you learned something from both of those birth stories and feel seen and heard if you had a similar birth experience as her. An elective induction at 39 weeks is a very common recommendation or offering that a lot of providers will offer to people, and it can be a very valid choice that someone can choose for their birth. But knowing that there are risks associated with an elective induction, and these risks include a longer induction depending on what your cervix is at the beginning. So Victoria herself had a 2 to 3 day long induction, and that is very common. So good questions to ask if you are leaning towards an elective induction are, what is my cervix now? Can tell you how long that induction potentially will take. If you are less dilated, it potentially will take longer. As well as, can I move during the induction process? How easy is it to move? So are there wireless monitors? Are there non-wired monitors? Because that can help you decide if you are wired into the machine and you can't move around a lot, that will limit your mobility and potentially make it a little bit harder, versus are there wireless monitors and is it easier to be able to move freely during that induction process? As well as, am I able to eat? Because food is really important. Your uterus is a muscle. It needs fuel to be able to work appropriately, as well as the muscles within your body to be able to move and support you during labor. So if you're able to eat more than just gusts of wind or ice chips, that can be very beneficial for your induction process. So asking, am I able to eat anything during labor? Some hospitals won't let you eat once you get an epidural. So asking these questions of like, when can I not eat and when can I eat, can be helpful to make that choice for that elective induction. As well as knowing cervical exams. Yes, they are very important to kind of make the plan for the induction for your providers and the healthcare team, but always asking like, what does this cervical exam, what is it going to tell us? How is this going to change my induction process or the plan of care? Or is this just like because we're curious? If you are also curious, then great, you can still get that cervical exam. But if the cervical exam is not going to change the plan of care, you can always decline it at that moment. If that cervical exam is not going to change the plan of care, you can always decline it and defer it to later, because cervical exams do increase your risk for infection. And especially if you're having a longer induction, the more that we can lessen those cervical exams to decrease that risk for infection, the better. So while an elective induction is a totally valid choice, knowing that there are risks associated with the elective induction as well as waiting for labor to happen on its own is important, and discussing the risks and benefits of both options with your provider to ensure that you feel confident, as well as asking further questions of like, can I eat? Can I move? And then as well as potentially what is on my cervix even at this point that can tell me what is going to be likely happening during this induction can be helpful for you to be able to make the decisions yourself and have yourself be more of an active participant in your labor to lead to a more confident and empowering experience versus a passenger in the experience where things are just happening to you, but you're not able to say yes or no to them. So if you're still pregnant and you're looking to have a confident and empowering birth, check out our online childbirth education course where we discuss the science of labor and birth to help take away the mystery and fear of surrounding labor and birth, as well as what to expect in labor and birth. We break down different laboring positions as well as different birth options available to you so that you can make confident decisions within your labor, as well as open the conversations between your provider and you, who you chose to be a part of your birth experience, that you feel safe and supported by. And if you're looking for ways to move your body throughout pregnancy or even postpartum, check out any of our fitness programs, our prenatal and postpartum. Our prenatal and postpartum fitness programs come in both an on-demand and an online self-paced program. Our on-demand are videos that you press and play and follow along with us, whereas our self-paced is a list of exercises with demo videos that you move through at your own pace. You can also bundle our childbirth education with prenatal fitness or even postpartum fitness to save an additional 15%. And as a thank you for listening to this entire episode, you can use Story 10 to save 10% off any of our programs and offerings. So you can head to MamasteFit.com to check out any of our offerings. And thank you again for listening. Please check out our podcast every Wednesdays for new episodes, as well as our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to be notified whenever we release new episodes.